Well, hi everyone.
Oh,
Welcome to the show again.
took me by surprise.
We're going to be talking all things, a bit political tonight, I suppose. Trying to take a spiritual angle to it. So much going on at the moment in the world. We've got here in the UK, we've got the UK elections with some crazy stuff going on, really. In America, we've just had the Trump and Biden debate. Again, lots of food for thought there. With the question we're asking tonight, really, is: are we kind of being taken for fools? Are we kind of being misled? I'm going to look at all the things, aren't we, really, all the things to do with what's going on in the background with all these things today. And then, of course, we'll take it in any sort of direction after that with all your spiritual questions about all sorts of things. So we really like your questions tonight to see where can we go. Anyway, welcome to the Craig and Jane Show. There we are.
There we are, indeed.
They're only very short titles, which I think is quite fun.
You're going to say a few hellos?
We can do hellos, but we'll just keep the hellos running in the background, but we'll have a chat while the hellos are going
hi,
up.
Hi, Craig and Jane. Hope you're both well. I'm extremely well. Are you well, Craig?
Yes.
Good.
So what did you think about the things today that we were watching with Trump and that then on?
Well, it was a bit like chalk and cheese, wasn't it, with Trump and that. I feel, Biden, what's he doing being in power? For example, obviously the man has something wrong with him. Trump, I like his go for it. I like that.
Yeah.
I really like that because he's a good businessman.
Yeah.
And I feel with Biden, how the hell did he get into power?
Yeah. Well, these are the sort of questions we need to start thinking about a lot, really, too. After January the 6th, how did he get into power? Biden get into power at that time? I'm sure people have a lot of questions about all those sort of topics, and it was kind of like I felt that Biden needed to go into a high security home for the bewildered, didn't he? As Dame Enda would say, he was completely shot away at some times. His sort of sentences just trailed off.
Well, I think it's rather sad myself that he's a puppet. Somebody is working him from the top, and obviously, I've got my personal views on that. Yeah,
well, we're going to share all those throughout the show, and we want your ideas as well, guys. Your questions, start putting them in early if you can, because there's so many things at the moment. So that's just a touch on the American stuff, but also, what about all the debates that have been going on? They're almost laughable, the ones here. I don't know if you and the guys in America have seen this, but we got Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak, who are like two actuaries. They're like two people out of an insurance company trying to decide the welfare and the way forward of an investment fund.
More like the Beano comic.
Yeah. I don't know that. I mean, what did you think about those, Jane? I'll just get an early view of what you felt with them.
Get rid of them, because I just feel that people all around the UK want to see new blood. And we actually want people that are going to do something for the people. It's like with these politicians, they make so many promises for you, and it never comes to fruition, does it?
Yeah.
And the thing is, we want strong men.
All women?
Here's one. Here's one here. Take note, Craig. What's it say?
Best wife ever. Okay.
You got it.
I can't remember buying you that.
You don't need
to. I think everybody out there at the moment feels pretty disenchanted, don't they? They feel disenchanted. They think, is this the best we can come up with? There's four people we've mentioned, our opposition and parliament leaders, and also the presidential candidates. Of all the people in the world, are these the best we can come up with? I meet people better. If I just go to pop out in the street now, I could probably find four better candidates. But the thing is, the problem that I worry about is are these really the people that's meant to be there, or are they just being put into it? I felt with the Joe Biden thing, for example, he was obviously going to get torn apart by the lions when he goes in to see Trump, and Trump was clearly going to tear him apart. But I get the feeling that the Democrats there were thinking, well, let's chuck him in the arena, let's throw him in, let's get him torn apart, because maybe, just maybe, there's enough time between now and November, when the American election is, maybe in just that time we might be able to get a new candidate for the presidency. We might be able to get rid of him. They can't get rid of him. He has to pretty much resign. There's pretty much no way round it to get rid of him other than the death or assassination,
right, yeah.
or possibly they could claim ill health from this. That might be a way around it. But he has, I believe, I'm not quite sure. Put your comments if you're from America. I'm not quite sure, but I don't think you can get rid of the incumbent. You have to. So you're stuck with him in a way, unless he voluntarily says, "Well, I'm going to go now. I'm too daft." But he's not a man that's going to give in, is he?
There's somebody pulling the strings, isn't it? There's somebody behind him that's pulling the strings. In a way, you're looking at somebody with Alzheimer's or dementia, and it is really sad. I think it's really sad that you've got somebody like that. It's like a time bomb waiting to go off that could start World War III if he wasn't careful. Trump, well, he's got plenty of things to say, hasn't he? He's a good businessman, and I think he would get the job done. And I feel he's definitely going to get in, Craig. No way about it. He is going to get in.
I've been saying that since the beginning, right from the very moment. Both of us have been saying that. But now they're saying about who's behind the puppet there, if that is the case, because one of the theories is that it's, Barack Obama, when he was in power, put in place all the judges and put in place all the various people, and it's still Obama pulling the strings in the background. And when he was the president, and some of his speeches that he did in the early stages of his presidency, I thought were very inspired to listen to. They seem to be quite rousing, but it seems like that was supposed to be the big change in politics worldwide, and they gave him a Nobel Prize before he'd even opened his mouth. Because he was a coloured man in the presidency of the American of America. I mean, it must have been astonishing for many people to think that, Christ, one of ours is now the president, But now it seems that he's just as bad as the rest of them. And if you look in the background, he's still a multi-millionaires and things like this.
Who is?
Biden. Is he the one pulling the strings? I mean, I know you don't know. I'm interested in American politics, and you don't know a great deal about American politics, but what do you get the feeling, Jane? Because from a clairvoyant point of view, not from what you read, because you obviously don't. Yeah.
I'm sorry to say, but it stinks all the way through. It feels like the votes were all rigged to me to get him in.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think personally, as a woman's point of view, I'd like to see fresh blood, new people, younger people, possibly in their 30s, not people in the late 70s, people that can really pull it together, because the world's ready for it. The world's got to change. It's really got to change. Yeah.
I mean, I think there is. When I saw all that, when that January the 6th, that's when that was all the insurrection in America. When all that happened, I mean, in my head, alarm bells rang. I almost felt, if I was there, I'd have probably felt pretty angry, because it did seem that people's votes had been stolen. And it seems now also, the votes here in the UK, we see our votes get stolen as well, because no matter who you vote for, because we don't have proportional representation, it means it's first past the post, they call it here, which means whoever gets the most votes wins. So it kind of means it boils down really to two parties with a possible third, and things are getting turned upside down at the moment because we got a new party come in here in the UK. It's something that I predicted a long while ago. But this is kind of thrown the cat amongst the pigeons. But we always feel we've been cheated. You can either have stale bread or mouldy bread. What would you prefer? Our choices are awful.
Well, I just hope if Margaret Thatcher on the other side can be reincarnated, Craig. We need her back for the UK.
Yeah, she might be born in America. Or maybe she'd been reincarnated as Putin. I felt sorry for Biden.
Yes.
I don't know for 1 minute. I think it's okay to mock an older gentleman. Yeah, that's a different issue though, isn't it? Regardless of political persuasion and his lack of ability to communicate. Well, that's true, but anybody anybody that's in politics is going to get lampooned. You're bound to. I mean, we as psychics get lampooned. You know, I mean, you do. It's part and parcel of the thing. So just because he's an old gentleman, as it were, and, you know, I mean, both people off stage are completely different people to what they would be politically. And I'm sure, you know, what you see most politicians, once they've retired, they suddenly sound sensible. You know, you think, oh, actually, now they're talking sense. Why couldn't you do that when you're in power? But really, you can't have someone you feel sorry for as the leader of the free world.
Now, I think they've got to sort out the immigration problem in America and in the UK, because we're only a small island and we haven't got the resources or the money, and we've got people here that need looking after, old people, homeless people, and people that have been in the services, who's got disabilities. We should look after them, because what it is, people from the age of 14 in my mother's time that have paid the stamps and into the system, they're not getting anything out of it. So people, immigrants, illegal immigrants I'm talking about, they see this as a land of opportunity, and you're going to get rich and given a house. That's wrong, isn't it?
Well, in both debates, both in America and the ones here in the UK, they said top of the agenda that everybody's asking about, they say, is the economy. Is it really? I think top of the agenda that everybody's asking about, that I speak to, it seems to be it seems to be not just illegal immigration, but the general migration of populations that has kind of create an imbalance in the society. You know, just like places like New York have got people camping on the streets now, just like they've got in Los Angeles people camping in the streets. We've got the same thing happening in places like Dublin, for example. There's various bloggers out there from Dublin. Go and look them up. There's some really interesting stuff. Dublin's overwhelmed with people living in tents. Same here all around the UK. We're getting the same problems of too many people pouring into the country, destabilising our politics. We've got elections coming up around places like France, for example. What's going to happen there? I mean, people are beginning to think, I'm fed up with this. So it's not just about the economy. You're right, isn't it? It's about the too many people coming into countries which are destabilising economically, because then you suddenly get 150 people looking for the same resources. It don't work. Everybody has to go hungry a bit. 50% reduction, or whatever. Right, the math's wrong, but you know what I mean. There's only so many doctors that can go round. There's only so much medical assurance. There's only so much money to be spent on facilities. So we start seeing our roads getting in a mess. We start seeing all our basic services that we took for granted as kids all being thrown away. Can't get a dentist. Same thing's happening throughout the world, where they say you've got, and these people come into the country, they're not insured, they're not paid anything into the system, and yet it's not mentioned on the TV channels. You know, the ITV debate that was on recently, the debates on the BBC, almost shocking in the fact that the basic issues that people, I think, are genuinely concerned about are not mentioned.
Yeah, and who's controlling all this, I wonder? Usually it starts from the top, doesn't it? And it's like, you know, somebody is putting the input and controlling it. It's like all your information's been gathered and people don't realise. And I feel the world's got to change, because it's just disastrous at the moment.
Yeah, see, agility bit saying that I think Biden will resign. He could resign. They definitely want to get him out. He was thrown into the lion's den there. You know, predicted, haven't we? And I think you might have said the same, that Biden will go. I said he'd go. I said it in March that he'd go. And he hopes he has in some nice high security twilight home he could live in.
We could come and live with you.
Yeah, we need a gardener. Yeah. We need a gardener. We could do our lawn.
I've got two of those.
You know, but you're seeing Michelle Obama coming to power. She's another one that's out there. What do you think about Michelle Obama as potential president of America?
Well,
better than Meghan Markle.
Well, we don't want to go that road, Craig. I don't think so. I think you could have a woman run America. You could have a woman. Why not?
Yeah.
Why must it always be men?
But she's another one that's kind of... could she beat Trump? You see, I think the person...
I didn't say her, did I?
No, but she's a potential
her.
candidate to beat Trump. Supposing Biden took the bait and resigned. Either they twisted his arm, and for a while we have that lovely Kamala Harris. She could be in power for a while, while the elections happen. God forbid. I mean, Mickey Mouse has got a Kamala Harris watch. She's so daft. Anyway, but who would come in? I mean, the person I've been thinking would come in would be Gavin Newsom. That's who I think would come in. Now, he's a young guy. You were saying on the way
I
up.
think he needs younger
He's a
people.
young bloke, but he's full of all sorts of possible things in the background. He's very, very keen on the idea of gay marriage. He tried to get the gay marriage laws. He went against the state there, I think 2004 or something. He got in trouble because he was allowing gay marriage when it wasn't legal. So he's very wokey. He's very into all that sort of agenda. There's been a lot of corruption around him still in the background. I think in Oakland, there's been a load of problems there and things like that. So we could be ending up with a smarmy looking, nice looking young sort of person up against Trump, but another battle of vitriolic attacks at one another and undermining each other and tearing each other apart. Now, those of you in America, who do you think would be the likely candidate? Michelle Obama, maybe?
No.
Gavin Newsom, or Warren? What's her name? Warren? Another one. Who do you think? Put your ideas. Who do you think would be a good person? I always get the feeling that Trump's going to have a very important vice president too. Do you think? Now, I know you don't follow American politics. It's better in a way, Jane. What would you feel, just using your clairvoyant sense? What would you feel would be Trump's vice president? You don't need to give a name.
No, I don't. I think a woman that's been in law. Here we would say a barrister. I don't know what they call it. I feel somebody that's got family interest, the environment, the economy, and somebody that's really switched on, smart.
White or black?
Well, I'm up for it. Did you know? No, it doesn't matter what colour they are, white or black, as long as they do a good job. It doesn't matter if they're purple, green, or what. As long as they're a good person, good values, and do a good job. Well, and I like to see a person with a spiritual element as well around.
I'm talking about on Trump's vice president.
Yeah, well, that's all
interesting. Interesting, because it corresponds quite a lot, Jane, with what I've been saying. Because I've been making people that follow me on the Coffee with Craig know what I've been saying.
Well, I don't listen to you.
No, I know you don't. So that's why I was interested that you should say that, because I wanted to think, is Jane picking up the same as me? So we seem to be talking from the same page there. So there's the vice president question there. There's various choices at the moment. I've said I see a black female person. I've been saying it for a long time. And a woman of colour. It might not be necessarily black, but I felt as if she had sort of ethnic origins. You could see it in her, possibly swarthy skinned, perhaps. If people are just starting to feel sorry for Biden after the debate wasn't paying attention, he's been having cognitive issues since 2020, and yes, it's Obama's crew. Yeah,
that's terrible. Isn't
it's
it?
Interesting, and I think a lot of people think the same thing. That nobody. I don't think it's any different. Nobody, the presidents and the prime ministers, I think they're all basically being arm twisted in the background. If they decide to get them out, they get them out, don't they?
Do you remember? You don't remember Jimmy Carter, do you? Who's the president, the peanut farmer.
Man.
He had good values.
Do you think so? I liked Nixon.
Oh, you don't?
I liked Nixon. I mean, the thing with Nixon, I mean, I know he was the most corrupt one of them all, but when you look back and you listen to some of the talks he gives, although I didn't like the man, and he should never have been president because he was, he was genuinely corrupt, but he was quite insightful about what would happen with Russia in the future. And he was very insightful and knowledgeable about China. Mm. And the thing is with him, China at that time hadn't risen, and he saw the rise of China and that China would become the economic threat to the West and to America and that. And I thought, actually, in retrospect, when you listen to him, you think he was pretty good clairvoyant. He would probably make a better clairvoyant than a president, actually.
Well, they have said in trance that China will take over the world.
Yes, yeah, you felt
in
the
trance,
same.
and
Yeah.
the spirit guides, so China will take over.
Yeah, but I don't think Biden would take over the world. I mean,
definitely not.
he was stood there, and the people have been pointing out that he don't blink when he's talking sometimes, and this might be he's on some performance enhancing drugs, or his brain's just packed up on him, because he gets moments when he just gets blanks. I think he gets those what they call mini sleeps or something they call them, don't they?
Yeah.
When a person just blanks for a while, micro sleeps. That's it. He has kind of micro sleeps, I think, when he's working there. And I also question, they brought that debate ahead early in America. I mean, we want to talk about the British stuff in a minute, but they brought that American stuff ahead early, which makes me think, why? Why bring it ahead early? Why have no audience? Why have no microphones? You can't overtalk each other. Okay, they say, that's so that we can make it much more controlled. It was a deliberately controlled event to destroy Biden. I think ultimately it all looked like it was in Biden's favour, but I think it was to get Biden out and a new candidate in.
Well, there's forces working behind the scenes as we're talking now, Craig. You can feel it.
See, same thing. This is so interesting with this channel we got here, guys. Well, I know we're getting a bit away from a bit of the spiritual here tonight. We'll have to try to swing it back a bit in a minute, but it's the same in Germany, you see. People who've paid for social system or healthcare insurance aren't able to get appointed with a doctor because they're all full. I mean, you can't get a doctor here for love nor money, and you can't get a dentist here in the UK. And you could get a sheep herder quite easily, I should think, but there's nothing out. The system can't cope. Europe can't cope.
It's
America
because
can't
of all
cope.
these
Canada
illegal
can't.
immigrants. They come first. They have to get a translator in if they've got a foreign language, because the English dentists don't understand them. It's wrong, very wrong.
Yeah, I know. So
let's go on the English side now.
but
We've done America.
well, that's no better, is it? I mean, because the world's in crisis, and we're in crisis here in the UK too. Anybody that's follows British politics. And the same thing's happening in Canada too with Trudeau. He's ready to tumble.
I just said
very soon.
It's about the UK election.
He'll be out.
Someone's read my mind, Craig. What about the UK? Well, all these politicians, they all make promises, don't they? They're going to give this. You don't hear them, do you, or anything like that? And I think it's so wrong if Labour thinks they're going to tax pensioners on their pension. So that's been already taxed because all their life they've worked, paid taxes, and they're going to tax them again. That's wrong. And I think we're ready. I think you're going to find the media are not telling the truth about what the real people want in the UK. They want reform.
Well, they are terrified of reform. Channel 4, wasn't it? Farage said to that Channel 4 had set him up. With this person that had shouted these racist insults about Rishi Sunak.
It's an
or
actor,
something.
wasn't it?
Well, we don't know if it's an actor or not.
Yes,
I don't know quite what's been revealed
It's been
yet.
checked out, but they don't know who hired the actor.
There's something very
That's
fishy.
I say, there's dark forces going behind the scenes, and it's all up in the air because there's certain people that don't want reform to come in.
Who do you think's behind it though? Because one of the things I wonder is Rishi Sunak made a real big point of reinforcing. He said the words and he had to bleep it out on the screen on the TV screen. He made a point of saying the vulgar words, as it were. I don't know what words we use, but obviously some
begin with P.
Was it? I don't know.
Work that out.
Some bad racist attack on him. So he loved it actually because he could use his horror at how terrible this Reform Party was. So it was a real good blow to reform, which he really wanted to milk. And yet, really, that was thrown out by someone that was a Reform person. But I don't think he was a candidate. He had a big
I didn't see
badge thing on it, so I don't know the full details of it. So I might be talking wrongly on this, but as soon as I heard it, I thought, nah, something's wrong there, because I don't think the mainstream news just does not reflect what we're thinking. It does not reflect what people think. It never does, and I get the sense that this idea, this reform vote that's coming, and the Liberal vote probably as well, is going to be much, much bigger than they think. These polls we got here in the UK, I think, are completely ski-whiff. I don't think Labour's got anything like the lead that they're saying. They're also going to become very confident because they think they got a huge lead, which means a lot of voters are going to say, oh, Labour's going to get in anyway, I don't need to go out and vote. Because most people are thinking, oh, they're all such a load of idiots. It's more of the same. It's whether I want light grey or dark grey. It's all the same. And a lot of people are going to say, I'm not going to vote, I can't be bothered. So I think a large chunk of those people that are in all these polls and things are just not going to vote.
It's very interesting because Rishi Sunak has said that he understands how the hardships, because he didn't have Sky television when he was younger. Then I thought, well, I don't know, Sky television was out when you were younger. I'm talking about, you know.
Yeah.
And the other one, he's an ex-barrister, isn't he? And he's quite well off, and his wife's quite well off. They're not people that are dealing with ordinary people. Their backgrounds are completely different.
Yeah.
We would like to see people that have come from ordinary backgrounds, say working class or middle class, and really want what's right for the people, fairness.
See, Vivian's saying there they got the same problem in Spain. I don't know much about the Spanish politics at all, but I mean, you've got divisive type of things happening there with Catalonia, for example, like we had with Scotland and England. You know, I mean, countries seem to be breaking apart very much rather than coming together. Exactly the same things happen in France, like I've said, in Italy, in Sweden, and pretty much every country you can name.
When I look at Nigel Farage, he won't mind me saying it, but I always see Harold Wilson in his face with a
Harold Wilson?
Yeah, with a pipe.
Yeah, not the same shaped face. Harold
No,
Wilson
no,
is
but his attitude. His teeth and his pipe, and that. And Farage reminds me of a version of him.
He's certainly the version, I think, here of he admired Enoch Powell as a speaker, actually, and that's why people didn't like him, because they immediately associated with Enoch Powell.
Well, it's true, isn't it? I mean, London's a dangerous place to live in because you've got all these people stabbing and things, because Enoch Powell said it's going to be rivers of blood. It's happening now.
And they always made Enoch Powell out to be a racist, but it
he's a very intelligent man.
It wasn't racism, I don't think. It was cultural problems.
He studied theology, didn't he? He was a very clever man.
Yeah, he worded things a bit wrongly, I think, sometimes.
Northern Ireland. Well, no, he was told it as it was.
Well, there we go. See, intelligence services could be behind using actor to damage reform's chances.
That's
right. We don't get the real news, do we? We don't get the real news. And that's a very, very good point there, Mary, I think.
Dark forces, as I say, dark forces.
What do you think, guys? Put some comments now. Put some comments after you've seen, when you've come on to late in the show, too. It'd be really interesting to see what people are thinking. And what would you vote? Are you prepared to say that in the comments? I don't think me and Jane should consider what our vote should be, because we've got to try to be, if we're making predictions about things, we've got to try to be neutral as we can. But I think there's a huge surge going on in the background by reform. The people we speak to, and we might be in the wrong area for that. I don't know if I travelled up to Glasgow, would people think the same? But I think there is a bigger surge for reform, and certainly when I look at the comments, you know, nobody likes Sunak, do they? I mean, he's a dodgy, slippery eel, that guy, isn't he? And useless speaker. He never says a word that can inspire you. When I watched that debate, I think someone said to them, both to Starmer and to Sunak, they said the same question. You know, everybody dislikes you as politicians, basically. And why is it that everybody dislikes you both as personalities? And Sunak I thought, well, if that question was thrown at me, I would think that's a time to show your personality. Maybe have a joke about it, maybe laugh about it, maybe react somehow, maybe try to use it as a great opportunity to show who you really are. And they just distract and go off onto another grey question again. And you think, that was your chance, mate. That's how you get to people, by showing who you are. And they can't.
Then, Craig, no personality.
No personalities. No. I mean, I always think in life, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
That's right.
In just about everything, it's how you say it. If you come across with, people don't take a great deal of facts in. It's no good giving people a load of facts and figures about inflation and things. It goes in one ear and out the other. But if they see some sparkle of personality, they'll go for it, That's why people like Tony Blair got on. I hated everything he did. I think he was the one that destroyed our country more than anybody. But he had a charisma at the time. And so that's what you need. Hitler had charisma. He developed it. Stalin had a certain amount of charisma. You've got to have that. Without that, you're never going to sway votes. You're only going to get these managers again, these grey people. As long as the Tories are out, that's what matters. You see, people have got very, very fed up with that endless Theresa Mays and and all that fighting over Brexit and the corruption that went on over COVID and the damage it did, not just to the country, but also it exposed a lot of what was wrong.
That's very true, Florence. A lot of people that I've spoken for said we want change, we're going to vote reform because it'd be more refreshing, because these politicians haven't come up with the goods, what they've promised.
Yeah, I think a lot of the younger
I think the younger people will, because they're the future, aren't they, of the country? I think
they're also thinking Liberal as well, actually. But I don't think they're thinking Labour, and I don't think they're thinking Tory.
No.
I don't think the young... But they're always a big question with the young people is, will they actually bother to go and vote? That was always the problem.
I think they will.
And and this whole business happened in America too. And here we got the similar thing. Postal votes. I mean, they need to get Biden out of power before the postal votes go out, because that was the way they swung the election last time, we reckon, don't we, most people? Young people will vote for reform. That generally have been... That generally have never bothered to vote. Hopefully that's the case, because I think everybody should go out and vote. I mean, you've got to vote, even if you're voting for awful things. You've got to try, haven't you? Vote against two main ones.
That's interesting.
Yeah, well, that's often true. Last time I don't like to show what side I'm on with politics, but I mean, one of the last elections, I voted for this independent girl that was going round, and you could see she had no support team, and I thought, I'm going to give her my vote because she's trying hard on local elections sort of thing. And I thought, well, she tried really, really hard. She did get in the end, actually, and I thought, I like to see individuals that stand up against the Goliath, as it were. We want heroes.
This is interesting. President of El Salvador is a very spiritual person who's with people and country. He has turned this country around. That's more people what we need.
Yeah, I don't know the president about.
Well,
I don't know. We might be sort of given a testimonial for somebody that's...
As long as he's not the mafia.
But this is another way to look at it, actually. What if we looked at politics not as a career, but as a spiritual path? Now, that sounds bonkers, but supposing politicians didn't get paid at all, and supposing that if you became a politician, because you're going to become a leader of men and women, you need to live an almost ecclesiastical sort of monk-like way, not with a religion, not with a god, but as somebody that is a servant to the nation. That you get no benefit from it whatsoever. You have to only do it because it's a calling, a bit like a religion's a calling. What if there were in the future, and could there not be this perhaps one day, that you actually, you buy your own stationery, you buy your own, it's all done through service, pure service, no benefit whatsoever from being a politician. That is the only way you could attract people that really want to do some good for the world. You have honour, because you're honoured as a person, but you're not allowed to perhaps have money. Maybe it could be. I mean, it sounds crazy.
I don't think they'd be called...
Couldn't we do that?
They won't be called politicians in the future. They'll be called commanders. I'm going right ahead now in the future.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking we might one day, in the new yugas perhaps, maybe politics could be done in a different way. Maybe we only vote... The Gandhi-like figures I'm almost seeing here, because Gandhi, when he died, I think he had $7 or something in his bank account. He said anything I have in his excess of my needs is taken from the mouths of the starving. Now that was a brilliant. I mean, there's a lot to question about Gandhi actually as a man too, but that concept that he was doing it purely because, from his point, he claimed anyway, that he was doing it because he was doing it as a spiritual work. It was Ahimsa, which is one of the Nams and Niyams, that he was projecting and using that, and he was using the first spiritual principles of Patanjali to do his work. I mean, couldn't that be the basis of choosing people in politics? It's got to be, we've got to choose them from their character, who they are, as not, character in terms of good character, good values, and not all this corruption.
Very good answer, Mandy. Globalism, they're all pushing for that. That's a very good answer.
Well, the globalism is kind of part of the problem we're getting here, because each country in the world is being affected by migration because of the nature of globalism and the need for big companies wanting to have cheap labour in different places. It's a kind of a slavery, isn't it? Population seems to be on the rise throughout the world. People are tired of the games in their individual countries. I was listening to Elon Musk, who was saying that actually that's a misconception that the population's on the rise. He was quoting a load of figures.
Says the man with 10 children.
Yeah.
He's got 10 children.
Has he really?
Yes, he has, Craig. 10 children.
But he said that one of the problems in the world is population decline. What we're actually getting is all the people are jamming into the same places. India's got a hugely expanding population. China's got a decreasing population, which is quite a rapid decrease, which could create major political problems in China, and a lot of unrest because there won't be enough people to run the factories. America, I think, has got a declining population, excluding immigration coming in. Same in the UK here. If it wasn't for the millions of people coming into our country, we'd have a quite rapidly declining population. Same in Europe. So it's not, it's not quite the way. But wouldn't it be better to have a declining population? When countries become affluent, they tend to have less children, which would mean that if we built properly and built for the future rather than short-termism, we could have all the nice houses left and get rid of the old ones and things like that, rather than this constant growth. There's got to be limits to it.
Well, children are the future, aren't they? So we've got to get it right.
Pluto's going retrograde. Pluto will be back into Aquarius in due course. I think it's Aquarius this moves into. What do you think of Count Binface? Absolutely my hero. Have you seen that one, Jay?
No, I haven't.
He's a guy that's got literally he's got a dustbin over his head, right? But it's a kind of a bit of a spacey looking dustbin with a sort of a red slit in it that makes him look like some.
So what is he then?
He's standing as a candidate for the sort of bonkers loony type of people.
Well, he's copying that Lord
Sunak.
He's copying that Lord Sunak. What's his name?
Oh, this guy is actually going in as a contender for Rishi Sunak. Now, if Rishi Sunak loses his, I think it's brilliant. I mean, because somebody to add that little bit of humour into politics. I mean, I think it's so good because
that's attention seeking.
Would Count Binface storm Parliament? I mean, I think it takes a little bit of the edge out of it, and I think it's pretty important, really, that we get people.
What, to have a bin on your head?
Yeah, I think the bonkers loon. I'd like to actually seriously think about standing for some bonkers party. I based upon my visions of the future. Yeah. Just as a statement, really, it's a statement that they're doing there, really, and I think it's quite important. Globally, the problems facing the human race are horrendous. Yes, mass movement of people will continue due to the conflict and climate changes impacting food and water supply. A new political paradigm is needed.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
it's got to happen now, not later.
And it is, because if we get, like you're saying, Ellen, it's really important because the climate change, which everybody's saying drill and things like that. But if we do start to get very serious climate change, what's going to happen to the people of Africa when it runs out of water? Where are they going to go? They're going to pour into Europe because already they've got poverty there. What's going to happen if the edges of the desert start to expand in America? Where are people going to go? What's going to happen if the Amazon basin starts to dry up if we tear down all the trees and things like that? It will cause mass movement of people. We've perhaps only seen the very beginning of it. What happens when China starts to starve again? I remember they used to talk about starvation in China, you know, and the things that happened in there before they started to rise to power. Now there was starvation, and the American chicken sent to Russia when the Russians starved, humiliation for them. There's been starvation in all countries of the world, and it's not that far ago in our history, is it? And that's the thing that could change the future. What do you think in the political type landscape would be far ahead, Jane, as we move far ahead in the future? What do you think is going to be the far ahead type of things?
Well, it seems all the land is being built on. It seems all about control to me, doesn't it? It's all about money and greed.
But you see, I think we will find a way out of all this.
I think we have to act now before it's too late, and this is an awakening. And we're seeing all these physical things and material things happening in front of our eyes. Why are we ignoring it?
Yeah, but I think if we look, I think much further ahead, I think the world will change its ways. I've spoken about it sometimes.
It's going to change because we need to have change. Eventually, it'll probably be in 1,000 years' time, we'll all go back to the Ice Age.
I think the nature of money will change in the future. Well, money will become something very different. It'll be kind of an individually owned
bartering.
thing. Yeah.
Bartering.
Well, possibly. But I think this idea of big accumulations of large quantities of wealth, the guy put up a thing a moment ago about tax the wealthy. You know, some people have the whole lot, don't they? I think that will change. I think the nature of politics may change, and it could even become almost like a religious practice in an ideal world, you know. And I think the way people look at nations will change. Well, I'm thinking thousands of years ahead. Can we just keep going all the time with these nations at war with one another like we've had since the time of the Romans and before, you know, all the way through, constantly one society tearing down another, and when someone gets plentiful, we invade them and destroy. You know, it says in the Bible, we shall reap I think Joshua or someone said, we shall reap the crops that others have sown. You know, not just sow as you reap, we shall steal what others have had. That tends to be the way the world works. China's stocking up on food now. Yeah, China's going to be a serious problem in due course. They're purchasing food from all around the world, including pork. I believe they got very big imports. I don't know about your countries. Our shelves are often empty here in Australia. Now that's a bad sign, isn't it? You know, I mean, we haven't had the food shortages, but there's bound to be food shortages in the future. We've spoken about that, both of us, in our predictions before, because you know, there's just if we wreck the climate, it don't take much. You know, it don't take much to turn America, for example, the wheat fields of America. It don't take much to turn that into desert, because the whole of Sahara, not that long ago in the Earth's history, was all plentiful with lakes and grasslands, and it was the big bread bowl of the world. And then the Sahara, in quite a short time, completely dried up, you know, and everything shifted to Egypt and the Fertile Crescent. But when you look at the history of the world, things work quickly, and they work even quicker now if we're making very fast changes. And should any big changes start happening to the sun, you know, what happens if the sunspots activity starts to accelerate really fast for a period of time? I think that could happen. We could get, you know, mass starvation. I think that's an important point.
It seems like history, going back to the Bible, is all repeating itself, doesn't it?
Yeah, and the farming in Europe's gone completely bonkers.
The farmers don't make a lot of money, do they? And it's jolly hard work, because we've both been watching Jeremy, haven't we?
Yeah, Jeremy Clarkson, brilliant stuff.
But you've got to remember that's all show, isn't it?
And they can't make it that work in one of the most green countries in the world. I mean, when I went through India, I mentioned this before, Mr. Prakash was saying to me, all this here used to be paddy fields with rice, but it's all dry. We haven't had rains. And there was we were driving for miles and miles and miles through areas that should have been flooded as paddy fields. So that's a vast amount of rice that was not being grown. and that was climate change. So, this is going to topple things for the future of, what do we do about it? We've got to think of ourselves as one humanity, haven't we, as well? If China gets hungry, Australia is in danger. Yeah, by God it is. But many of the families in China in the past were deliberately mismanagement.
They were, with Lily.
And a lot of the families in China, Britain had a hell of a lot to do with that, with the opium wars and all the rest of it. But also, like Lily, our friend, wasn't she? She was forced, like you said, she was forced because she was of a different political class. She was forced to work in the sewers
rice fields, Craig, and they marked her arm and say who she's related to.
That's the Sun Yat-sen stuff, I forget his name. Craig, what do you think will be the future of the UK with the immigration? Do you see UK government being changed or overthrown? Well, I think in the short term, neither Labour nor the Tories are going to sort it out. They obviously can't. If you look at Labour, they're very, very wokey, I think, Labour. When they're not telling us their policies. I think we'll have worse immigration than ever under them, frankly. I think if the Tories get in again too, we'll have just as bad, because they seem to be totally unable to agree about anything. And if they were to win, they'd only be fighting for leadership battles from the day one, because Rishi Sunak surely wouldn't stay. I don't think reform is going to make any real difference this time round. If they get 18 seats, as they're talking about, well, that's pretty good, but it's still a fraction of what's needed to make real change. I think we might get higher than that happening. So I think a lot of the politicians in the UK are looking to the 2029 I think it is the next votes, wouldn't it? They're thinking, well, we get a leg in the door now, and it means we won't get any real changes to what's happening until 2029. But I think places like France, we're going to see really serious movements that are going to really push out the old class, as it were, and we'll get much more a turn. I think there's going to be big upheavals in Europe. And Britain's now kind of lagging behind in that, in a way. We might even become the place where everybody has to go. So we're going to get big changes, because I think people are becoming very... the French are beginning to feel we don't feel French anymore. It's happened a bit in Italy. So turmoil ahead, I think. I actually think we'll get battles on the streets with a lot of this in due course.
It's bound to. Question. Many psychics talk about 2026 as the year things will massively change. Do you feel this? I would say 2027 myself, because 7's a very mystical number, and I feel that people are going to go through realisation they want something more out of the future, and that because we're all going into this society, drones, robots, even you don't have to take a driving test. You've got these cars that are going to be self-drive cars.
Yeah, we're going to get a big major changes in the world. We're on the brink of a new equivalent of like what happened in the Industrial Revolution. I mean, the Industrial Revolution happened very quickly, and it was a massive change. Britain became a world power in a very short period of time, quicker than the Roman Empire rose to power. The British Empire exploded because of the Industrial Revolution. We've now got an artificial intelligence revolution, and none of us really know what the consequences of that could be. You know, it might be impossible to vote for people. We saw a movie, didn't we, the other night, a French movie. I can't remember what it was called now, I've forgotten, but one of the precepts of it was that human beings became intelligent people became unnecessary.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Why have intelligent people? The only jobs that were any good for humans to do was going down to places where artificial intelligence can get to. And in the particular case of one of the protagonists in it, they would read the meter under the cellar, sort of thing. That's all they were capable of, even though in previous life they'd been a great pianist and things like this. So all the skills were taken away. So this de-skilling could be a real nightmare way ahead, or it could be a utopian way ahead, because all those awkward jobs of doing your accounts and things like that is done instantly by by artificial intelligence. But if you don't use it, you lose it, don't you? So our intellectual abilities might be challenged in due course, just as we're all becoming very weak physically because we don't work in the fields anymore and things like that. So we're on the brink of something that is going to be very serious.
But women never retire, Craig, do they?
Well,
Or
they
that?
might
When
even
you're talking about fields,
We've got artificial intelligence, but no way will they crack
You
that
can't do-
ironing problem.
it can't do the housework.
Yeah. So, guys, thanks for
Oh.
being part of this show, as it were. We're still going a bit longer, but have you thought about becoming a patron on the show? Having a look in the description of this. If you like following us, obviously, give us a thumbs up every time, because that helps the algorithm. Follow us if you don't follow us. But if you come here regularly, please have a look in the description and consider becoming a patron. And what a patron does basically helps to keep this studio going where we're doing the filming tonight, helps to keep the show on the road, helps to, and it's non-profit, so it's a non-profit organisation. We've also given a bit of money to charitable things through it as well and done some good work with that. But the money coming in helps to keep all the cameras going, helps to keep the rental on this place in Winchester going, which is quite an expensive area here to do this. So we need your help because it is kind of a bit touch and go all the time with these things. So become a patron, and also it's like a community there too. You can interact with me. We put little extra videos up, like after this show tonight we'll make a little extra video that will go up on the patrons. It'll also go to those of you that become a YouTube follower of the channel as well. But all that helps massively. Many drops create an ocean. So there you go. Yeah, so thanks. And thanks to all of you that have been helping, as you can see from some of you that I put in.
And some of them people have come to me for personal readings.
Yeah, well, we got to know a lot of the patrons really quite well too.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, well, because you get to know them, because you're going to interact with all those that are helping you, aren't you? So, yeah, it becomes quite a good community. Hi, Craig and Jane. Question. Who do you think is the Antichrist? A being or an energy or nothing at all?
Antichrist. Well, it definitely is a beautiful world, but it's the people in it at the moment, isn't it? I don't believe there's such places as hell. Hell can be here at this reality state in the physical material world. But I definitely believe there's going to be something that's going to save us in the future.
Yeah, you see, when I get a question like that, I have to say, well, okay, if it's an Antichrist, what is a Christ? And a Christ, does that mean Jesus, or does that mean the Christ consciousness, as it were, that Jesus aspired to? The Christ, the stories of Jesus are kind of based upon Roman ideas and Mithralism and things like that. So big questions there. So I have to first of all say, well, how can you have an Antichrist if you don't believe in a Christ? Or what is a Christ? Is a Christ higher consciousness? Is it what Jesus attained and what all of us can become, as me and my Father are one? And what I do, what these things I do, you can do also. So big question marks over that. Is there a force of evil? That's a whole new question too. Does evil exist, or is that kind of just ignorance? Is evil itself ignorance? You know, so the dark forces. But what you're obviously, I presume, Gemma, referring to is things like the Nostradamus talked about the idea of Mobius, I think, what was the name of the Antichrist type figure in Nostradamus that would come into the world that would cause kind of World War III, is the way some people have interpreted this. And similarly, some of the things in the Bible book of Revelation, which was written not by John as one of the disciples of Jesus, but another John that was on an island in, I think he was in Cyprus or somewhere, and I think there's a man that had a nervous breakdown and wrote it all down as a prophecy. So I'm not a great believer in an Antichrist coming into the world, no. But perhaps as an energy, perhaps that's what we see as the darkness moves off the world. I'm a great believer in the idea that we're coming into a much brighter world in the future. These dark times, it seems at the moment, they're not as dark. You know, our parents must have felt it was dark times when there was the Second World War. Their parents must have felt dark times when it was the First World War. My nan's, her mum would all talk about Napoleon. If you don't behave, Napoleon will get you. So those were frightening times. And before that, we had all the things throughout history of awful things. It always feels like dark times. But I do think it's all moving. It's all gradually moving and getting a little bit better each time. You know, we can all eat, We've all got quite comforts, you know. We're all sat in comfortable seats watching screens and things like that, which medieval people didn't have.
So it's a shift of consciousness, really.
Yes, I agree with you, Jane, completely, isn't it? And I've always gone on about it. Do you think the same? Do you feel that there's going to be a golden type of age? And
absolutely.
What would it be like?
Absolutely. This is all darkness this year. So from the darkness, we're going towards the light and the shift of consciousness. And I truly believe that. And
I always say as well, I think the Great Awakening doesn't happen all of a sudden. It's not like some sudden change that some great being comes from the sky. I mean, that is in both Hindu and other religions and Christianity and so. But I think what awakening is each individual person waking up. It's like millions of little candles that become like a sun.
That's a good way.
And all of us wake up, and our duty, whatever the age we're born into, whether it be a good age or a dark age, it's whatever the age we're born into, it's our duty is to wake up. That's why we're here. Our whole purpose on earth is to awaken. And with the awakening comes all these other things like love and truth and happiness and things. It's the best thing you can do in life.
Someone's just said we need to love each other and be kind. Love me, Craig.
When you're going like that, I presume that means buy something. We need King Arthur again. Yeah, there's always these figures of hope. He's a great character. Yeah. And we need King Arthur again. Yeah. I think that's quite. We do need. He's like a symbol, though, isn't he? Of a symbol of the king is like the. Is asleep sometimes in some of these stories. Tolkien picked up on that idea, didn't he, of the sleeping king, and it comes from the old sagas of the Vikings and things. The king's fallen asleep, and we want the king to return. What will be the result of the UK general election? Well, I think Labour will get in, but I think it's going to be much, much more closer. I said
by the skin of their teeth. Do you?
I said that Tories would get in if Rishi Sunak was pulled out of power, because we got free will with this, remember? And he nearly was pulled out of power, and I can't see him now pulling him out. There's not enough time to pull him out of power. Everybody hates Rishi Sunak. If he had gone, Tories could have stand quite a high chance of getting in. I think Labour, and I think Reform will make a much bigger mark than anybody expected, and I feel that Reform will ultimately probably become a driving force that will probably do a deal with the Tories eventually. The Tories will have no choice but to do a deal with Reform in the end, and Labour will come in, and I think Labour will mess it up. And I don't think they'll do the full term by any means. I get the feeling something will happen to Labour within the first couple of years that will trip it up, possibly an economic cave in, and also the whole issue of immigration. None of the problems that people are genuinely concerned about are being addressed. So people will be resentful and people will be deeply disappointed, whichever one gets in. But I think they'll become very disappointed very quick. And I don't think Keir Starmer will last very long either. They'll pull him out eventually too. Any thoughts, Jane?
None whatsoever at this period of time.
Okay.
I think we
so there's some predictions for you at the end anyway. All right, well, thank you everybody for joining us tonight. It's been great to see you. And don't forget, become a patron. We're going to do a little bit extras at the end here, which we'll put up on the patrons pages and on the people that follow us as a YouTube member. Until next time, we'll see you soon.
Oh, and we've got some exciting news. We've done our DNA. We're going to do a reveal.
Oh, yeah. Talking about all that type of thing of heritage and things like that. We've got a DNA test to see where we come from. We'll do something on the show like that. Yeah, we'll do something on the show like that when it comes in. That should be back soon, actually. Hopefully.
2 weeks' time, actually.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see you all again soon. Thanks, guys. See you soon. Bye for now.
Yes, and my idea is to have certain very highly spiritual people that will come into these centres, and it'd be like nothing's been done before, and it'd be quite unique, quite beautiful, and like Craig says, it would be done on, I will want to do it on a high spec, so it's really lovely that people have something to look forward to, and you don't have to be any particular religion. The religion I believe in is love all, serve all.
Yeah, and we've already got a number of people that have expressed an interest in trying to help us, and if those people can start, if you start getting inspired by the shows that you watch every week here, and start thinking a bit bigger picture, we can do something between us. It's not about me and Jane, it's about all of us. It's about all of us in these really dark times, because those that have come to the show know that with what we're trying to do, we're trying to raise enough funds first to keep this studio going, because this is all coming from the patrons. This is all your donations is helping us to keep this studio going. And if you like the show, you give a little donation. And also, we're trying to take it to the next stage. We're trying to become a full spiritual centre.
I have a dream, for example, Craig, just an example, of having like a meditation room, and in the centre of the meditation room, a beautiful crystal fountain with cushions around, and possibly lovely Indian music and lovely night lights, so it gets us all into a deep meditative state and be very beautiful. And then the next room, Craig and I can demonstrate, and perhaps another room where I have healers in that can help people. And another room, obviously, we'd like to feed people as well, and make it really, really beautiful. That's my vision, Craig.